Duck is realizing how bad the world really is, while Kenny is doing his best to shield him from it. Lee, however, is being honest with the boy as he thinks it's for his own good. Will their two opposing viewpoints clash? We'll see this and more in part 2 of What If Duck Survived. We start episode 4 with our group consisting of Clem, Duck, Kenny, Lee, Omid, Krista, Ben, and Chuck. Same group, just an extra person here in Duck. They arrive at Savannah and the walkers close in on the street due to Molly ringing the bells. However, when Kenny is grabbed, Duck shoots the walker, saving his life. This means Lee won't let Clementine get trapped with Ben, and that means Chuck doesn't have to save her. So, Chuck lives. To be honest, his death in Canyon was kinda dumb. Like, he got left behind because he was cornered by a few walkers on an open street where he could have easily ran around or through them. So yeah, Chuck is alive and our group finds the abandoned house. If Kenny hates you, he'll say, "What the hell was that back there?" referring to his son shooting a walker. Obviously, Kristen and Omid, not joining the group until a few hours ago, are confused. What, he didn't know his son can shoot or something? He cuts his eye at Lee, knowing only he could have done something like this. Duck asks Lee if he did a good job, and Lee looks at Kenny, telling him he did good. Kenny, being outnumbered here, lets it go for now. If you have high friendship with Kenny, he already knows Duck can shoot since he told you to teach him in episode 3, so he praises him as well, telling him he did a great job back there, all while giving Lee a nod of approval. We also get a cute scene where Clem tells him he was brave out there. I feel like this makes sense because at this point in the season where Clem was still kinda hesitant and timid, Duck is loud and eager. I like to think they balance each other out. Duck will say whatever Lee told him to do during the gun training. However, I feel like he'd best understand the aim for the head advice as it's simple and straightforward. He's not as thoughtful and clever as Clementine is, so that advice suits him the best. Kenny and Lee prepare to go look for boats, and Duck wants to tag along. He's told yet again to stay put, only this time he's not as discouraged because Lee gives him a real task. Stick with Clementine and make sure nothing gets inside. If that happens, Duck cuts him off and says nothing will get in on his watch, all while posing like a superhero. While walking into the city, Kenny and Lee's dialogue would have a lighter tone regarding Duck's enthusiasm or a more serious tone regarding him shooting the walker on the street. I'm sure you can guess which version corresponds with your friendship level. Just as Lee wins or loses the fight against Molly, his name is called. Duck and Clem reveal themselves and Kenny quickly questions them. "What the hell are you two doing here?" Kenny also doesn't shoot his gun at Molly due to him being mentally stable and not as on edge. So the walkers don't overrun the alleyway and they make it back to the house safely. Also, Molly still joins. She says that she told them about Crawford, and if there's any boats there, she's coming with them as payment for letting them know of the place to begin with. If it weren't for her, they'd still be wandering the streets looking for boats. Oh yeah, and she wouldn't assume that they're from Crawford due to the two children being present. However, when they get back to the house, everything Molly says is completely undone. They see the shed door wide open, revealing the boat. They were exploring the house and found the boat locked in the shed. Also, Duck is a master detective, so this would have been light work for both of them. They realize they need a battery and some fuel, so they still make the plan to sneak into Crawford. But without Vernon and the cancer survivor nonsense, they don't know about the sewer shortcut. You still decide whether or not you want Clem to tag along. Kenny will bring Duck to Crawford no matter what, as he doesn't feel comfortable leaving him with an injured Omid. Everything else that happens at Crawford stays mostly the same with some minor changes. First off, Vernon isn't there, so getting the medicine for Omid would be slightly more difficult. Chuck is able to stop Ben from taking the axe out of the door, so the walkers don't flood the hallway. This means the operation goes more successful than it did in canon, as Bree survives due to Vernon not being there, and Ben surviving the trip to Crawford no matter what. They get back to the house, and Omid still gets his medicine. Molly would still leave, and Kenny goes out to start repairing the boat with Ben following him out there. Shortly after, Chuck yells for everyone to come outside. He's restraining Kenny and he's cursing at Ben, saying he got his wife killed. Yup, Ben confessed and is paying the price for it. Duck is also disheartened when he hears what Ben did. They still take the vote for Ben to join them on the boat, and the votes are pretty much the same. However, your friendship points with Kenny will determine what he says. If you have high friendship, he'll say Lee and Clementine are the only ones who are coming no matter what. If you have low friendship, he'll say he's taking the boat and getting his son out of here. Anyone else who wants to join better decide fast, cause he's not gonna wait for them in the morning. Lee wakes up to Kenny searching the house for Duck. He'd ask Kenny what's going on, and Kenny tells him Duck is missing. Lee goes outside in search of Clem as she's gone too. He still finds Clementine's hat on the curb and is bitten all the same. Everyone goes outside to see him holding her hat. Now, we get to discuss how certain characters will come with you. Ben's requirements are still the same. For Krista and Omid, you just have to show them the bite. They're not as affected if you brought the children to Crawford, as Duck proved he was able to hold his own by saving Kenny on the road. For Chuck, you just have to treat Clem like a grown-up. This means taking her to Crawford, letting her have a vote for Ben's status, and just overall being honest with her. Obviously, Kenny will go no matter what cause his son is missing and he assumes they're together. How Kenny addresses this to Lee will correspond with your friendship level. If you have low friendship, he'll tell you not to get confused as he's not doing this for you. He's going after his son and they're out on the water once this is said and done. If you have high friendship, he'll comment about how you always looked out for him and his boy. He and Clem may not be blood, but no matter what, they're family now. He says, let's go get our kids back from that bastard. Lee and his squad set off, heading towards the Marsh house. Also, because Lee never met the cancer survivors, he won't assume that it was Vernon that took Clem and Duck. So their only lead is a stranger on the walkie. This is why they head straight for the Marsh house and not underground in the sewers. Episode 4 still ends with the stranger talking to Lee on the walkie-talkie, only this time, they're not in Vernon's hideout. They're on a rooftop. After making the jump across, Lee blacks out on the rooftop. This causes way more walkers to appear as they were outside and the noise drew more of them in. After he wakes up, Kenny makes a suggestion. He says they should ring the church bells on the other end of the building. It worked for Molly, so it should work for them. Kenny will be the one to go, and depending on who else joined you, they'll accompany him. Krista will go with him if it's just you four. If Chuck came along, he'll go with Kenny. If everyone came with you, Ben will go with Kenny and will fall while trying to jump the gap. Regardless, Lee blacks out again and is woken up by the bell. He's told by whoever joined you, or just Kenny if no one else joined you, that they're going back to the house as they need to do something about his arm. When they get back, the boat is still there due to Lee never meeting Vernon. I still feel like the group would at least discuss cutting Lee's arm off. If you chose to cut the arm off, it's way worse. As they're not in Vernon's hideout, they don't have access to his medical supplies, which means he would suffer way more from the blood loss. They still patch him up, but he's worse off than he was in canon. Also, Lee's screams would alert the walkers who were already close to the house. Regardless of whether you kept the arm or not, the house is overrun by walkers and Chuck meets his demise helping Ben into the attic. Lee would be unable to help the group during the final stand due to the blood loss getting to him if you cut the arm off. They make it into the attic and here they talk about who Lee wants Clementine to go with. I want to point out that Kenny definitely has a bigger sense of urgency since his son went along with Clem. Also, for those who are wondering why the hell would Duck go with Clementine, I just feel like this fits his curious personality so perfectly. Because he's a master detective, I feel like he'd be a bit overzealous in solving the mystery of locating Clementine's parents. He is Robin after all, so there's no mystery he can't solve. And he is a kid, so he doesn't quite understand the gravity of what he's doing. Like, yes, he's developing, but it's still Duck. It's not some new character. Anyways, they make the hole in the wall and enter the other house. If Ben didn't die at the bell tower earlier, he meets his canon fate here by falling off the balcony and getting impaled. However, Kenny wouldn't go down to save him. He has his own son to worry about. Like, I still believe that he would forgive Ben, but like his whole purpose right now is to save his son. So I really don't think he'd risk his life to save Ben here. Sorry. I think he'd yell for him to get out of there, but we all know it's a wrap for Ben. Kenny still knocks the walkie-talkie into the pit. Assuming this guy has both his son and Clementine, he jumps down to retrieve the walkie-talkie. If he's gonna risk his life over something, it's gonna be over the tool that they're using to find his son and Clementine. Lee asks what the hell he thinks he's doing, and Kenny says they need the radio to find the kids. He tosses it back up to Lee, and they begin searching for something he can use to climb with. They try using the pipe, and he falls. Kenny tells Lee to find Duck, and he'll meet up with them after. Before Lee can reply, Kenny starts shooting, and the walkers flood the hole. Lee then crosses the sign and makes it onto the ground, parting ways with Krista and Omid. We still get his epic walker killing spree. He makes it inside the Marsh house and the stranger talks to him about the choices you made. He still offers to take Clementine and Duck this time though. He remarks on how Duck can shoot, saying it's a really good thing. He lost his son Adam while they were out hunting. He's not the smartest kid, but he has promise. He tells this to his decapitated wife's head, Tess, in the bowling ball bag. The fight then proceeds to play out the same two ways in which Clementine can kill him or Lee still kills him. While Duck is a savage ass sharpshooter, I think him shooting the stranger is a bit overboard. Like, that's actually insane. And Duck already had his moment to shine earlier, so it makes sense to have it be Clem this time. The three of them see Clementine's parents, and Lee passes out all the same. So, mystery solved, I guess. It's much easier for the two of them to get Lee inside the police station. When he awakes, he reveals that he was bitten, and they're distraught to hear this. Duck is getting deja vu. It's just like Mom. Lee tells the two kids to look out for each other, and Clem is faced with the decision to shoot or leave him. Duck would be telling Clem to shoot, as he doesn't want Lee to turn. They did the same thing to Katja, so they should do it now. However, it's still the player's choice. The duo make it out of there and arrive at the countryside where they see Omid and Krista in the distance. This is where we end Season 1. 400 days would stay mostly the same, just with the slight chance of Vernon and Bree being alive, as well as the cancer survivors never finding the boat. They'd probably leave the bunker eventually and would most likely die or be left unknown due to Savannah being overrun with walkers. With Season 1 ending, I think this is a great spot to end this video. So, what did you guys think of this part? Was there a piece you liked in particular? If so, be sure to comment and subscribe. And let's try and hit the like goal from the beginning of this video so I know there's interest for this series. This is easily shaping up to be one of my favorite series thus far. Anyways, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys next video.